first we'd like to thank very much Eidos for inviting us to be part of this enterprise. I think it's fascinating, and it was a logical extension. Reeves and I have been writing music and songs for movies for years, but I think the idea of developing a soundtrack idea for a game is really quite unusual. The idea of writing songs specifically for a game was really a compelling factor, and it's the one thing that we wanted to do. And also, they didn't give us a preconceived idea of what we should do. We were left to our own devices.
I wanted to know how computer literate you were before you got involved in this.
Not many people notice, but actually, I was the first artist to take computers out on the road in the very early 80s, in fact, on the Serious Moonlight tour, 1983. So I've been, and we were going online then and delivering all facts and figures back to home base. So my experience with computers does go back a long time. I've been working on the internet now for about 2 years and actually 6 months in operation on the internet. And I've been producing art on the computer since 1994. So I did my first series of things. So I can mouse about.
What video games do you play, and which of them inspired you to do this project?
My son is the games merchant in our household. I've played games. Of course, I played Tomb Raider. And like every other hot-blooded male, I was in love with Lara. And momentarily, then I realized that it was not real. It's just not real. This is definitely the end of a millennium. The idea of actually doing a soundtrack for anything that's involved in a computer orientation was a real magnet for me. And we approached it as though we were doing a film. What we were trying to do more than anything else is provide an emotional heart to the game. As the one thing that I did find going through the games that I viewed before we started work is a lot of the games have a cold emotional drive.
One of the things in a lot of the computer games is that the soundtrack doesn't always complement, it seems thrown in. So doing films and doing just regular songs is such a different kind of thing than an immersive, interactive game. How did you take that into account when you were designing the soundtrack?
It's a very good question. I think the one thing that we noticed immediately is that most of the material that's used in games is actually taken off albums. Very rarely is music actually produced for the game, but they've sort of taken an album track here and an album track there, and it sort of works some of the time. But we spent quite some time in Paris working with the team over there and understanding the depth and the many levels of the game involved. So we got a pretty fair idea of what the scenario was. We got to know some of the characters fairly intimately.
Can you tell me what was involved in your actually being a character in the game as opposed to just supply music with the game?
Yes, I said my priority was that I looked about 24 years old. And that was my input, really. And then for weeks and weeks they kept sending me sketches. No, 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 yes, that one.